And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another weekend edition of the PondCast, episode 47. I'm, of course, your side VIP. With you, I'm joined by these amazing news that we're about to cover. I'm used to a different opener, I should say, but welcome nonetheless to our weekly talk show where we go over all things StarCraft, whether it's news, tournament results, or even adjacent news as well. Of course, usually I'm hosted by Yaku, but as of last week, I did mention that Yaku has since gotten a full-time job. He's got a full-time job, so he is otherwise preoccupied. We will try to get Yaku on during the weekends every now and then. We were fortunate enough to get Yaku on during the Sparkling Tuna Cup on Sunday, but we'll see if we can get him on another weekend as well, just so Yaku can still be involved in some way. I know that Yaku's been quite busy as of late, so hasn't had too much free time. We'll do our best. Likewise, might also be able to bring on a fellow co-host as well at some point, like a little guest. Whether it's someone like Enki, whether it's someone else in the scene or community, we'll do our best. We'll do our best to accommodate. Until then, though, we are jumping into our news of the week, and we have some more big news once again. We were expecting these big roster changes. For those who are unaware, for those who maybe haven't been tuning in on a regular basis, you would know that players have been getting picked up left and right ever since the announcement of EWC. For those who likewise are unaware, the Esports World Cup, they are the big global kind of end of year, or I can't really, not quite end of year, but really global finals for a bunch of esports tournaments, esports events, and they are also they're also giving a bonus to teams that take part in multiple esports at the EWC. Because StarCraft is a part of this year's Esports World Cup, it does mean that teams get a bonus for signing players for competing in StarCraft. This is why there are a bunch of player signings, bunch of player pickups, a single player for each team essentially. And this week we have a new sign up, a new signee. It is Showtime. Showtime, he has joined as Sentinels. Sentinels, a team that has not dipped their toes into StarCraft in the past, but they are a big team. They have a history in other esports. They began in League of Legends. They're a North American-based team. They began in League of Legends, and they've since branched out into Valorant, into other team game esports or team-based esports, Apex Legends, Marvel Heroes, Halo, and now StarCraft 2 as well. So great to see Showtime find a team. Again, there were some key players that we were expecting to join a new team. One of them was Showtime, and now he is no longer a part of those players. There's still a couple more left. Last week, Gumiho got picked up. This week, Showtime got picked up. There are still two players. There's still two players, at least in the back of my mind, that I expect to be picked up. We'll see if they are. Those two players being Creator and Estrella. Creator and Estrella. Last year, Creator was on Blacklist International. Last year, Estrella was on Virtus Pro. This year, they are currently both teamless, and we expect them to be picked up, but at the same time, EWC spots are quite limited, and a lot of this will depend, a lot of whether or not they're going to get picked up will depend on their performances in these future offline events. I'm referring to DreamHack Dallas, referring to Star Zagora, GSL as well. Creator had a rocky start. Creator, he did not qualify for GSL, so already like a bit of a rough start there. Likewise, Astray is practicing. He is getting ready for Dallas, which is next week. So depending on their performances, when it comes to GSL Season 2 for Creator, when it comes to Dallas for Australia, we'll see if they do get some attention and whether they're going to be picked up for the next season of EWC or next year of EWC. So we'll see. We shall see. Best of luck to the players that are still looking for teams. Again, most players have been picked up, but there's still a couple that are teamless, so best of luck. Meanwhile, that does bring us to our next massive bit of news here as well, and that is Dark. Now, we did mention last week, and even the week before that Dark, his final tournament was the Pigsty Festival number 6. I believe that was on the 5th of March, if I'm not mistaken. That was his last televised event. Again, we did know this ahead of time. We knew that his military service was coming up. He was kind enough to let us know during KSL, during the Korean StarCraft League. This was a month ago at this point, and we knew that his time was coming to an end here with us in StarCraft 2. Now it is official. Dark, he is already in the military. He did announce that his military service began on the 13th of May, 2 days ago. 2 days ago. So Dark, he is now officially in the military. It's been a long time coming. Again, Dark, he did mention how he did put off for a while just so he could be there for the birth of his daughter in the first couple of years of raising his daughter as well. Of course, Dark is now a father. He's now a pappy. So much love here to Dark. Best of luck as well. I think it's very bittersweet because Dark, course, now is officially in the military, now officially no longer in StarCraft 2, but he went out with a bang, right? Like, his last tournament was Pixel Festival number 6, and we already went through those results. If you don't remember what happened in that tournament, Dark, he beat Serral. He beat Serral in the upper brackets portion of the playoffs. Like, he had a really strong performance in the Pixel Festival, literally taking down the best Zerg player in the world in a ZVZ, showing that Dark, he's still, coming into this, he was the best Zerg player, and he still is, I would say, the best Zerg player in South Korea, and still one of the best players in the world. So he's very much so in form, very much so on top of the scene, so it is bittersweet to see him go and see him join the military. So best of luck to Dark. We wish him the best of luck coming into his future endeavors. I'm hoping that there is a scene for him to come back to once his military service does wrap up. So best of luck to Dark. Best of luck, much love, as he finally does bid us adieu. That does lead us over into our next bit of news. That is going to be for Star Zagora. Again, Star Zagora is also right around the corner. Next week is DreamHack Dallas. Star Zagora is going to be in 2 weeks, or I should say in 3 weeks. In 3 weeks' time is going to be Star Zagora. It is a big offline event coming up in Bulgaria, and unfortunately, we did receive some news that we had some visa issues. This is something that is kind of on the back of people's minds, especially coming into DreamHack Dallas as well, to determine which players can and cannot travel to Dallas. Likewise for Bulgaria as well. Shameless, he unfortunately, despite qualifying, and again, Shameless, he had a crazy performance in the qualifiers. He came out of left field to make it to the event. He definitely deserves that spot. Unfortunately, he was not able to get a visa in time to travel to Bulgaria. Is a bit of a shame. I'm sure there were also some other complications. Shameless is a very young player. It's possible that he had to get his passport sorted and then get the visa and get everything going, and it can be quite a complicated process, especially if you only have a short amount of time to get everything ready. So unfortunately, Shameless, he is not able to take part in Star Zagora. They did let us know via the tweet that they actually offered a decider match, like a decider almost show match, to determine who would replace Shameless. Alas, Thermal rejected the invite to said wildcard qualifier show match, and Geralt, as a result, by default, gets the slot. So Geralt, he is going to be taking Shameless' spot, which, is kind of fitting here, replacing one European Protoss for another European Protoss. So it's kind of fitting there. Geralt, he's a strong player in his own right, and I'm hoping to see the best of him. Again, Geralt, he's not really, I should say, a regular when it comes to these big offline tournaments, so it's going to be a valuable experience for him. Would have said it would have been an even more valuable experience for Shameless, but it's okay. I'm sure Geralt is doing proud. He'll do him proud. So best of luck to Geralt at Star Zagora. My condolences to Shameless, as he will not be a part of the event. Feels bad. Is definitely a little bit disheartening to hear, but regardless, Geralt, he will take his place, and that's it when it comes to our news. This week there was no interviews, there was no GLHF interview either, so content is a little bit scarce here, but I'm sure a big part of that is because GSL, right? GSL is ongoing. DreamHack Dallas is next week as well. There's a lot of big events that are coming around the corner. I'm sure a lot of people are getting ready for those events as well, so most likely the reason why we have a little bit less to divulge or to get into. But for now, we have our tournament results. Up first, we have our StarCraft Evolution results for the StarCraft Evolution League number 11. Let's go. This is, of course, an event that did take place a couple of days ago. We did cover it this morning, actually, and it was great to see SEL back once again. It is a bi-weekly tournament every 2 weeks. It was a monthly, but due to popular demand, it has come back as a bi-weekly with a new format as well. As a heads up, usually this event is best of threes up until the finals, but specifically for StarCraft Evolution League this week and potentially future weeks as well, best of five semifinals and a best of five finals as well. So they have increased the amount of games in those semifinals from best of three to best of five. And I would say a big reason for that is most likely because in general, StarCraft Evolution League matches or StarCraft Evolution games are shorter. There's a lot of all-ins, a lot of aggression, a lot of all-ins. Games are shorter, series are shorter as well. So in an effort to increase, the length of an event, the length of the broadcast, and to increase the amount of games as well, they've changed the format into a best of five semis, which I'm all for. It was a blast, to be honest. It was a blast. A lot of ZVPs. Another important thing to bear in mind in regards to this tournament, one, that's a lot of Zerg, actually, surprisingly so. It's not often, even in StarCraft Evolution League, to see many Zerg players at all. But a big reason for this is a lot of the regulars, a lot of the big names are not here. We're missing Shin, we're missing Bjorn, we're missing Skillus, we're missing Spirit, we're missing a lot of these big Protoss and Terran names, and I'm sure a big reason for this is now we're no longer in the off-season. One of the reasons, I feel, one of the big reasons why StarCraft Evolution did benefit over the past couple of months, 6 months even, of StarCraft, is because we were in the off-season and there was a lot of uncertainty about the future of StarCraft 2 and EWC, and because of that, people were more willing to play other formats. If you remember, that was the rise of team games, rise of the 2v2s, Wardies 2v2s and 3v3s, Euthermals 2v2 tournaments, StarCraft Evolution League, Warcraft 3 Evolution as well. Like, all these other aspects of the game gained popularity because it was the off-season and because players, they didn't have to spend all their time focusing on StarCraft 2 because they didn't know if there was even going to be another tournament, to be honest. And, again, off-season, some downtime. So they were more willing to partake and to participate in these other kinds of tournaments. Now that GSL is back, Star Zagora is around the corner, DreamHack Dallas is around the corner, Home Story Cup is around the corner, GSL Season 2 is around the corner, EWC, all these big offline tournaments in StarCraft 2 are coming up, and that means that a lot of these players, they probably want to dedicate as much time as they can to competing in StarCraft 2, to performing well, to make it into EWC. So, as a result, I don't have confirmation by any means, but I would believe that this is the reason why a lot of these big names are missing from this StarCraft Evolution League. We'll see if that continues into the next SCL as well. If so, it is a bit of a shame. It is a bit of a shame that, that StarCraft Evolution would be suffering as a result of, all the SE2 players focusing on StarCraft 2. But at the same time, it also means that some of these other quote-unquote mid-tier players, or players that aren't necessarily at the very top of the top, they have the opportunity to showcase their skills again and to make it far in these tournaments and showcase themselves in general here. A lot of these players like Wayne, Geralt, Young Yakov, 3Point, they often get pushed by the wayside when the bigger names step in, when Skilla steps in, when Classic steps in, when Shin, when Bjorn, when Dark was also regular in these tournaments as well. When Dark steps in, when these big Korean names or even some big European names step in, Spirit as well, then these other players would otherwise struggle a little bit more and their tournament performances would suffer as a result. But now they can shine in their absence. So there's a bit of a give and take here. Obviously, we will continue to cover StarCraft Evolution League for as long as it does. It is here, it is something that we enjoy. It is definitely a breath of fresh air. Of course, our main focus is always StarCraft 2, always, but it's nice to take a break every now and then and, to veer off and enjoy and dabble into StarCraft Evolution whenever we can. Cup as well, of course. But alas, right now there is just a big emphasis on StarCraft 2 and practicing preparing for StarCraft 2, at least at the moment. Once we get back into the off-season, post-EWC, I wouldn't be surprised if these tournaments ramp back up again when it comes to participation from other players. We'll see. We'll see what comes in the future. When it comes to the event itself, I know we spoke a lot around the tournaments, but when it comes to the event, a big shout out to 3Point. Happy 3Point, he does claim the win. A lot of ZVZs. He takes down Prome, takes down Young Yakov 3-2, takes down Wayne 3-1 as well. A lot of ZVZs, very different kinds of ZVZs as well. We don't often get ZVZs. It's been a long time, and it was a lot of fun here. 3Point versus Young Yakov. It was a best of 5. It was like a 30-minute best of 5 or maybe 25. It was non-stop 12 pools, 13 12s, 12 pools, gas first, pool first. It was a hyper aggression between 3Point and Young Yakov. Between 3Point and Wayne, it was a little bit different. We saw a little bit more macro. We saw some more macros, some more mid-game instead. We even had a late game on Troy, which was arguably the highlights of the entire tournament. So we had some really, really fun matches. We got to experience ZVZ on Neo Owls of Siren as well, which was also a treat. So definitely a different dynamic that we're used to seeing in StarCraft Evolution. So I do recommend it. It was a lot of fun. And once again, we have some of these players, some of these Russian players, of course, performing quite well here. And they're committing more time to StarCraft Evolution. I'm referring to Young Yakov, Wayne, and Minovike. Like they're and Zodians as well. Like they're all dedicating more time to it, and they're all improving. They're all learning. I will say that they are a little bit newer to the game, so there's there's definitely moments where you can see them making some mistakes or maybe misjudging certain units or misjudging certain compositions or maybe even having a hard time figuring out their own composition. Again, Young Yakov and Wayne, they're veterans in StarCraft 2, but when it comes to StarCraft Evolution, they're newer. They're a lot newer when it comes to playing this kind of game mode, and they're doing real well for themselves, but you can definitely see the experience of 3-Point paying off. That's I think what I will say the most is that 3-Point, like his experience in all of these situations in StarCraft Evolution, really did help him so much in these EVCs, and there's definitely a lot of examples of that. Without going into too many spoilers, so I recommend checking out the VOD yourself. It was a great performance, great tournament. Do check it out. And of course, shout out to Geralt for getting into the semis and Young Yakov for making it to the semifinals as well. They did well for themselves. Of course. So with that, congratulations to 3-Point. That wraps up our SEL number 11 tournament for the week. That leads us into our amateur tournaments. That leads us into the Amateur League monthly tournament number 40. This is a tournament series. There's one tournament for each bracket, for each kind of range of MMR, and they are running on a regular weekly basis. From my understanding, points are on the line to kind of accumulate over time to get into like an end of season or end of year kind of event. So they do hand out points, but there's no prize money involved. So if you are out there, if you have that competitive drive, and if you want to take part, do consider it. They have their own community that do compete on a regular basis. I say that a little bit of a bleak bronze to platinum week this week, as it looks like there was only one sign up, so Ragnar does get the default win. Usually there's a good amount of players here, but not this time, so a little bit unfortunate. It is a little bit unfortunate to see, but regardless, shout out to Ragnar. He's always very dedicated and very consistent when it comes to signing up and competing, even in other bigger events. Scrolling on over, that does lead us into the veteran Amateur League tournament, which is Diamond 3 to Diamond 2. This is, we have some players that I'm not familiar with. I recognize Old Lady from last week. I recognize Glacius as well. I did not recognize Tonsi. Tonsi GC actually claims the win here without dropping a single map. 2-0 over Old Lady, 2-0 over Glacius, and 3-0 over Old Lady as well. So very strong performance there by Tonsi. Congratulations, very well done. Does claim the win. That leads us into our next tournament. That leads us into our prestige events of Diamond 1 to Masters 2, where we had Beast. Beast took down Defiance, took down Arez, went all the way to the ace match, but Arez, he did bounce back with the 3-0 over Beast. Strong comeback there from Arez, the Brazilian Terran player, a player that we have covered plenty of times in the past, so very nicely done, very strong performance here. Looks like he got a 2-0 initially, then a walkover in that final game, but very well done nonetheless here. GG well played to Arez. Leads us into our next tournament. Leads us into the GM edition, the M1/GM edition, the Elite edition of the Amateur League monthly tournaments. We do have some, oh my god, we do see some players we're familiar with. I don't think I've seen Adeshi compete in this before. Adeshi, the Korean Protoss. Adeshi, he is a regular in StarCraft Evolution tournaments. Not so much in regular SC2. He plays like in a Sparkling Tuna Cup every now and then. But yeah, Deshi is not a regular here, but he does take down Ericon 2-1, Patches 2-0, and Patches 3-0 at the very end. So strong showing there by Deshi. I think this is his first time in the Amateur League circuit. So well done. Well done here to Ateshi. He's definitely a strong competitor. He's a strong one. GG well played. Shout to Patches, of course, coming in second place. Claiming the second place. That leads us into the SDO, the Sea Duckling Open number 134. That is our monthly Bronze to Diamond tournament. I say Bronze to Diamond is up to 4.2k MMR. So we do have an MMR restriction here for our tournaments. Again, this used to be a weekly many years ago before we started casting pro StarCraft. So unfortunately, over time, we have less time to cover this event. It turned into like a bi-weekly for a time, and now is a monthly tournament. At least we do still host it. We do still bring it back. It's where we, started as a team, as a channel as well, as content creators, and we do want to keep it going. So we do have the SDO, number 134, and we have Captain Fish, the favorite player, Pappy. Oh my god, the German Terran player, he does it again. He's not a stranger to SDO championships, and this time undefeated. Usually there is a player that can threaten him, but not this time, not this week. Not this month, I should say, as Captain Fish takes down Dave Latos, I Like Trains, Blazer, and Tyr in the finals. Very impressive performance there by Captain Fish. We actually had some newcomers. Blazer, he's a newcomer. This was his first time competing in our tournaments. Likewise, we had some other newer names as well. So great to see some newer faces in the scene, in our community, and hopefully not the last we see of them. Hopefully we see them once again in the future. Meanwhile, again, GG well played, strong showing there by Captain Fish. Very impressive. Very impressive. Captain does it again. Crazy. So GG well played. That leads us into our also before I forget, the random participation, the random raffle did go to Ragnar. Ragnar does win 5 USD for his troubles for competing in the tournament. Again, Ragnar, he won the previous bronze to platinum tournaments for the Amateur League Weekly and happens to win here as well. Crazy. Esther Ragnar. That leads us into the Passioncraft Emerging Stars number 15. This is likewise also an MMR restricted tournament. This is for 5.5k players and below, so this is low GM. Low GM players essentially are competing, are facing off. We do have Inexorable. He is becoming more of a regular when it comes to these tournaments. It's not his first win here in the Passioncraft Emerging Stars, so very well done. Takes down F2 Click 2-1 and Mini Zerg UA 3-0 as well. I mentioned this before. Mini Zerg UA, he is a newer face to the scene. He still does not have a Wikipedia page, but he's been quite regular. He's been definitely a regular competitor over the past, I want to say, month. Hasn't been too long, but over the past month, he's a GM, and he has been playing in more and more tournaments. I do keep my eye on him. To me, he seems like, like a GG machine, like another younger player who is definitely on that grind, and we'll keep an eye on him to see how far he can go and how much he can improve in a short period of time. To take down Roman de Mold and to take down Gref, impressive already. Went down to Inexorable, who was a more established player, a more experienced player, so GG to Inexorable. But Mini Zerg popping up more and more often is definitely something that I'm taking note of. GG well played. So that also means that Inexorable, he is seeded and qualified for the OSC Elite Rising Star number 16. That's going to be next year. Kappa, that's it. It's going to be a ways away, but does qualify for that event. And again, this is a regular weekly tournament, so we'll keep an eye on these players here, these rising stars, and see how far they can go, and who else qualifies for the OSC Elite edition of this tournament. Heading on over, we do have Bratok. He's been hosting a lot of tournaments, to be honest. Whether it's StarCraft Evolution tournaments, the mod tournaments, or even some other fun events as well. 2v2s. This time, Bratok random 1v1 tournament where everyone plays random. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Unfortunately, the Wikipedia page doesn't have full information of what race players landed on in each game. But Shameless, he does go on a tear, takes down Gref, takes down Dr. Graf. Shameless goes down to GG Machine 3-0. Actually falls to Def Mars as well. Def Mars making a deep run through the lower bracket. He went down early on, actually, even before the upper bracket quarterfinals. But in the end, GG Machine, he does claim the win, 4-0. Now, did he just happen to roll Zerg multiple times and he could just rely on his Zerg, or does he off race a lot? Does he play a lot of Terran? Does he play a lot of Protoss? Is it comparable to the other players? Hard to say, because we don't know what he landed on. We just don't know. But regardless, GG Machine, he does claim the win here. Congratulations. He rolls that ice, lands a natural D20. Crazy. And shout out to Bratok. I mentioned before, but Bratok, he's been hosting a lot of tournaments. They're very irregular, they're very random. Every now and then, he's like, I'll do like a King of the Hill. I do a 2v2. I'll do a 1v1. Very sporadic, very random, but shout out to Bratok. Nonetheless. Big shout out. Great guy. That leads us into the All Things Protoss Team League Circa 2025 Spring Split. If you recall, last week we did go over the finale of the group stage, and now it looks like we have our seeding matches completed. Here we go to determine the placements of these teams in the playoffs. First, we had the 5th and 6th match. We had the Gooners up against Feline, and the Gooners, they couldn't goon enough, pappy, or they gooned too much. That's as the Gooners, they barely go down 4-6. We see tied 1-1 matches all around, but it started with a 2-0 in favor of Spazzy Mazzy over Gunner, and that did ensure that Feline did take the win. So GG well played. They did take the win. They did advance on in 5th place. So Feline, they're going to be in the first round of the playoffs, and the Gooners will not be a part of the playoffs. Feels bad, man. Feels bad. That leads into the third and fourth placement. Smurf Time. Smurf Time, they take down Monk at 6-4. It started with a 2-0 in favor of Hydra. So Hydra with the 2-0. We had Lewis and Nihead tied 1-1. Enbo 2-0's Cognite. Mars Bar gets 2-0'd by Winget. And we had Takua and Ogma. Ogma go 1-1 in scoreline. So barely in favor of Smurf Time.
So
they do claim a better placement there.
I do want to add a fun fact because I did actually watch that match live, and they specifically mentioned that Takua and Ogma are like the two oldest players in the league, and it was like the battle of the old men.
No. The old man. They're like 35.
I think like they said like 37 or something like that.
There you go. So it came down to the final players here. And again, congratulations to Smurf Time for claiming the win. Shout to Monkey. I mean, they're still, in the playoffs. They're in the first round, facing off against Feline. That leads us into the first and second seed. Blinken up against Viet Cong. And Blinken, they have a much more dominant performance here. Akedon took down Gref 2-0. Magnat took down Edgore 2-0. Deadly Kingdom, name I haven't seen in a while, takes down Dincommon 2-0. A lot of 2-0s here. Heroku and Vendetta 1-1. And Shevets takes down Ibiri 2-0 to claim that first place. So we have our playoffs set. They're ready, and they will take place in 1 week and 2 days. So most likely in 2 weeks we'll be covering this. It's a little bit too late for. I mean, next week there won't be any updates when it comes to the podcast. So in 2 weeks' time, we got you covered with those updates. Regardless, best of luck to these teams. Looks like the initial starting round has already been announced. It's already public information. So players, I'm sure, are preparing hard here for those matches. Nihead versus Nisho, Ogma versus Angrath. We have Lelix versus Spazzy Mazzy, Winget versus D-Smoth, and Cognite versus Mirage. Oh boy. So I'm sure they're preparing for their matches. Best of luck, as these starting maps are also known as well. So best of luck. Shout out to Gemini, of course, for hosting the event, for casting the event, and for creating all the memes as well. I know there's a lot been going on behind the scenes in regards to that. That leads us into our regional events and show matches. Here we go. It all begins with El Torneo Nacional de Bolivia. I actually did see this live at the time. I remember I was tempted. There were a couple of times where we would end a broadcast. I think this was a 2-day event, maybe just a 1-day event, but where we had the option to raid, but yeah, I think they were just wrapping up at the time. But really cool to see this event take place. I think there were like 2 or 3 streamers covering the event. There were multiple streams on Twitch. None of them are listed here on Wikipedia, but they were being streamed. I think the main streamer was actually typically a Brood War streamer that happened to be, of course, streaming, casting events, a StarCraft 2 event. And yeah, we got to see the Bolivians face off here. Some old names return. Darker named, known for having the longest name for a long time. I know Kura has stories to tell about this, but for a long time we did use Darker named, I believe, for like a placeholder name for our thumbnails.
I can confirm. Yeah. Whenever I would be making graphic with player names, I would use Dark Unnamed as the template because his was by far the longest.
There you go. So the longest name. For those who don't know, Darker Named, I would say, was one of the best Zerg players in all of Latino America. I'm thinking back in 2020, like beginning of COVID, beginning of EPT. This is when we had, I would say, number 1 being Chim, number 2 being Eric, but then like for top 3, you had like so many players. You had Jim Rising, you had Eggs, you had Ryu, you had Dark Unnamed, you had Universe, you had Zerg, yeah, the Zerg Lord as well. There's another that's like on the tip of my tongue, but there was just so many Zerg players in Latin America. It was just full of Zergs. Darker Named was one of them, of course. So we're trying to think of another. But yeah, they were all facing off, and they were all very comparable in skill, all very successful as well. And Darker Named did retire quite some time ago at this point. It was very sad to see, but Darker Named, he was a staple in the region. He was a staple in StarCraft 2 in Latino America. I can see here, yes, his last big event, I believe, was back in 2020. Wait, just double check. Yeah, 2020. So 2020 was his last big event. He did take a long break. He returned briefly in 2022 for a couple of qualifiers for DreamHack Masters, but only briefly. So it looks like he retired in 2020. He came back back after 2 years, very briefly for one qualifier, and now he's back after 3 more years in 2025. So I don't think this is his return to competitive form, but I'm sure they reached out to him. I'm sure he was like, hey, we're running a Bolivian tournament. Let's have the Bolivian legend back for this. And then he came back. So really cool to see. Big fan of Darker Named. Definitely has a near and dear place in my heart, and always a player to remember. Ryojin did take the win. Ryojin is an active player. Back in the day, Darker Named, he was the best player in Bolivia and one of the best Zerg players in all of Latino America. Back when the Latin American region was more thriving. Ryojin, he's a newer face of the region. As of the past couple of years, he has risen through the ranks. I would say right now, he's one of the best Zerg players in Latin America currently as well. He's a younger player. He's 23 years old, so a much younger player. I'm trying to think. I want to say that he debuted only a couple of years ago. And just double checking, yes. So he first debuted back in 2021, but he didn't really compete in any big events until a couple of years after that. So he's a bit of a newer face of the region, and only recently we're kind of rising up the GM ladder. So he was favored, of course. He was favored coming into this, and does take the win, kind of like the next generation taking down the old generation in the finals. This reminds me a little bit of like Master versus Shakti. Yeah, I think that'd be a little bit more apt in the Brazilian region when it comes to Protosses. Here, Ryojin and Darker Name for the Zergs. So congratulations to Ryojin for claiming the win, and really cool to see Darker Named return after so long. And again, I don't expect this to be like a return to form, and I don't think he's going to be active like in Open Cups and other tournaments. I think, he just came back just for fun. I would imagine, but really cool to see him make a deep run regardless. And yeah, I mean, I would hope to see more of him in the future. We'll see what happens with future Bolivian tournaments. I hope they did well for themselves, and I hope to see more in the future, for sure. As that leads us into the Circuito Brasileiro, the SC2, the Brazilian Soccer 2 circuit. Let's go! We did have over the weekend the Group Stage 2 and the playoffs. Playoffs did conclude, of course, this weekend, and I said they concluded. The online portion concluded. We have our top 4, and we had some crazy results, by the way. If you missed out on the VODs, I recommend them. We did go over the quarterfinals, the upper bracket quarterfinals, lower bracket semifinals, all the first couple of rounds here of the playoffs. Initially, nothing crazy. We had Shakti. Shakti took down Kamikaze 3-0. Eric took down Allison 3-1. And Inexorable took down Claw. Master took down Dominoko. Everything as it should be, right? When it comes to the top players in this tournament, the upper bracket semifinals, list them. Eric, Shakti, Inexorable, and Master. These are the top 4 players in Brazil, 100%. But something happened. First things first. Eric took down Shakti 3-0. Eric looking very strong, very dominant. Again, Eric was favored coming into that series. When it comes to Inexorable versus Master, they trade back and forth. They often have ace matches. They often, I would say, go in favor of Master. I think we remember the stats. It was like 65% in favor of Master when it comes to their historic recent matches. But Inexorable, he was on fire. I think we mentioned previously that Inexorable, especially in March, he was inactive. In March, he was nowhere to be found. I was concerned that he had silently retired. I was like, yo, what's going on? And then he came back. Back in March, Inexorable, he wasn't really playing in anything because he was competing. I mean, I guess in a way. He was focusing on his studies. He was focused on exams. Like, it was like exam time for his university. Like, he was focused on his studies. He didn't have time for StarCraft, so he wasn't competing. Then, coming into April, he came back. And he was... And you can definitely tell he was a little bit rusty, but he was like, getting back into form, getting back into high gear, and he was winning more matches, winning more games. He actually did beat Master recently, I want to say in Amantes, in the most recent Amantes before this tournament. Inexorable did defeat Master, and here, bam, he shows up and he takes out Master 3-0. This was very shocking. Like, Master... He is ranked number 1. He's ranked number 1 in Brazil. He is favored to go to the finals, and he got knocked out here by Inexorable 3-0. For those who remember, Inexorable, a bunch of 2-base play. A bunch of hyper aggression on 2 bases, often 2-base all-ins as well. So Inexorable, who was very active, very aggressive. He never allowed Master to get into the mid-game. That's where Master shines. Master, he shines in the mid-game, in the mid to late game as well. That's where he is at his strongest. And he was denied that by Inexorable. And he was knocked down to the lower brackets. which is fine. We're like, oh, he got knocked down. He'll be fine down there. There's no one that can threaten him. I would say that maybe Yan would be his biggest threat, or Shakti would be his biggest threat. But Shakti and Yan, they face off against each other. You can see they went to the ace match. It was very close, very clutch. I rated Yan very highly, but Shakti did barely bring him down. It was so unfortunate that Yan got seeded so lowly here. Like Yan, he was in the group of death in Group D. Like, he was in the same group as Master and Shakti. Like, he got screwed when it came to the group stage. It was, like, it was really rough seeding for Yen in the group stage, and here he had to fight his way back up from the lower bracket, and he did well for himself, got knocked out by Shakti. But Kamikaze was an animal. If you missed out those games, one, check out the VODs, and if you remember them, Inexorable, he excelled with 2 base all-ins against Master. Shakti did one better. 2 1-base all-ins in a row. he 1-base all-in the hell out of Master twice. It was so sad to see. Like, Master, he was like, he wanted to play some StarCraft map. He was like, yeah, I'm good to go. I'm ready for the offline event. I'm ready to go far in this tournament. And Kamikaze, he like pulled the boys twice. Different kinds of all-ins, to be fair. 2 different kind of 1-base all-ins, but non-stop 1-base all-ins. And Kamikaze, he punched up, he cheesed the hell out of Master. Cheesed him out of the tournament. It's crazy. So, crazy upset. Inexorable takes down Master, which is more believable. Kamikaze cheesing out Master, that is almost unbelievable. That was a crazy result, and my heart bleeds for Master. Like, Master, he is the number 1 ranked player coming into this tournament, and he gets knocked out without even going to the offline event. GG well played. Shout out to Kamikaze, of course, for cheesing him out, and that means we have our offline players locked in. Eric, Inexorable, Shakti, and Kamikaze, not Master. They are locked in for the offline event in Sao Paulo. It's still going to be a couple of weeks until that event takes place. I believe it's going to take place next month. But yes, shout out to the StarCraft Brazilian scene and community for booking the venue, for pulling together the prize money, and for bringing together these players for this big offline event. Cosmos is going to be there, Iceguard is going to be there, maybe a couple of Sinistro might be there, depending on how things line up. I know it's going to be a very busy month, so big if on that one, but a lot of people are going to be at that event, and it's a great community event to bring everyone together. I know the Brazilian scene is thriving, and it's going to be an amazing tournament. Of course, we're going to be covering it in English, as always. We got to be there for our boy, for Eric, but once again, my condolences to Master. Master should have been there. He needs to be there. He is one of the best players in Brazil, but at the end of the day, it's a tournament, it's a competition, and if you're not feeling it, or, if you're up against a cheesy player, like, hey, they can bring you down. GG. So shout out to Kamikaze. I'll be honest, coming into this, my predictions, I don't expect Kamikaze to go any further, but but he did his job. You could argue that, like, Eric, he's up there, and he's like, whew, thank God. He's like, yo, shout out to Kamikaze for knocking out Master, because Master, I'm pretty sure he has a decent record against Eric. Like, they trade back and forth very often. It's very, very close between Eric and Master. With Master no longer being in the tournament, I would say that Eric is the favorite. If Master was still in the tournament, I would maybe say Master was like 50-50 between himself and Eric. Now, as much as I can say that, Inexorable has yet to drop a map in the playoffs, right? Inexorable, as I mentioned, for a time, he was focusing on his studies. Now he isn't. Now he can focus on StarCraft. And hey, we just saw him recently win the Passioncraft Emerging Stars event. Inexorable, he is in form right now. He is a threat to Eric, 100%. I'll say that Eric is favored, but Inexorable, he is, peaking at the moment in skill, and he may even win the entire tournament. We'll see. Of course, we're a little bit biased here, and we want Eric to win everything. But I do understand, I do respect that Inexorable, he is looking really good right now. He's improving a lot, and he is not one to be, taken lightly. GG well played. Best of luck to Eric, Inexorable, Shakti, and Kamikaze as they all make their way to the offline finals over in Sao Paulo. Best of luck. To look forward to that. As that does lead us into our next tournament, that leads us into the Legacy Weekly Japan, number 455. This is a weekly tournament for the Japanese region, for the Japanese scene. And once again, Sayark, he did win last week, but every now and then, whether it's Noticon, whether it's Crimson, whether it's Vice Ravanya, but some of these other Japanese players have been knocking him down. For so long, Sayark, he was the best player in Japan, but now it's a little bit more shaky amongst the best players in Japan. They trade back and forth, and now it's less secure who is the best. this week, Berful, a player that I'm not familiar with. Haven't seen him win in a long time, or if at all. A player that I'm not familiar with. Again, typically when I see players bring down Sayak, it's like Nodokon, it's Vaishvanya, it's Crimson, right? Some of the Kazuman even as well. Not this time. This time, Berful. Okay, we have a new contender. We have a new competitor. GG. GG well played as Berful takes down Sayak 2-0. Very impressive, very well done. That leads us into the Sunrise Cup number 198. This is a weekly tournament for the Chinese scene, for the Chinese community. And once again, I was going to say Nanami does take the win. Nanami, Oriana, Silky, a lot of these players, they trade back and forth here in the Chinese scene. This week, Nanami gets the win, but it was a technical win, as it looks like Oriana was not able to play in the finals. Is a bit of a shame, is unfortunate. Oriana is a great player. I would have loved to have seen Nanami versus Oriana. They often trade and yeah, they often go blow for blow. I do think that Oriana can threaten Nanami, especially recently. Oriana has been getting better results, but Nanami does take the win at the end. GG. GG well played. Unfortunate that there was no actual series, but regardless, Nami claims the win. That leads us into the next tournament. The first that I've noticed in this series here, Demon King Cup number 2, Division 1. It's a bit of a mouthful. Heart of the Demon Kings is the subtitle. Shout out to the AI art that they pieced together here. I appreciate the like Diablo motif that they've got going on, or like the Stormgate motif. It's an interesting one. Yeah, apparently they brought this together here. Apparently the Demon King Cup, the first one was back last year, November of 2024. So it's been a long time since the last Demon King Cup. And this time, I believe that is Silky. Yes, Silky. I'm still not getting over the fact that Silky name changed to like Super Cat. God damn it. But Silky did recently name change, which is why on Wikipedia you can see some Chinese characters there. I think he name changed to Super Cat in honor of his team, Super Kitty, like something like that. It's like Super Neko or something. Like, but Silky does claim the win. Silky, he is the best Zerg player in all of China. I will say that. So Silky, he's a strong contender here. Lemon takes down Lancer. Let's go. Lemon takes down Lancer. Lemon does fall to Silky. Silky can be very aggressive, can be very cheesy at times. So again, Silky can be a tricky player to go up against. I think I would favor Lemon in a standard game, but I imagine these are not standard games. So congratulations to Silky, does claim the win. Shout out to SCV for taking a map as well. No, SCV has also been improving a lot. Regardless, GG. GG well played. Silky does claim the win in Division 1. That also leads us into Division 2 of this tournament. I imagine with lesser ranked players. Oh. No, there's Lemon again. In my mind, I would imagine that Division 2 is for lower MMR, and Lemon, because he does off-race, he's like, hey, yo, can I play with my Terran? They're like, yeah, sure. It's like, okay, let's go. And then he just wins it all. So congratulations to Lemon for winning the event with his Terran. For those who don't know, Lemon, he is quite competitive, and he has competed before as Terran and as Zerg and as Protoss. What I mean by that, not that he's a race picker or that he's random, but a couple of years ago, he was a pro Terran player. Then, a couple of years after that, pro Zerg player. Now, currently, pro Protoss player, right? Like, he has kind of like switched up which race he was competing in at a time, depending on the era of StarCraft. So he has competed as all three races. So all three of his races are quite high, to be honest. Right now, for the past couple of years, he has been sticking with Protoss, of course, but his Zerg and Terran is still terrifying in its own right. And with that, does claim the win. GG. GG well played. Lemon does take the win in the end, at least for the second division. And of course, we had Silky in the first division. Congratulations. I don't expect this to be a regular tournament just because the last one was back in November, but we'll see. We'll keep an eye out for any future Demon King Cups. I'm sure completely unrelated to what's next, the Chicken King Team League. Different king, just as a heads up. But here we go. We have an update here when it comes to round 3 of the group stage. PCEC, they take down IW 5-1. Dominant performance there. Yo, shout out to Mixu. If you recall, Mixu, he is on PCEC. All right. Something that I didn't get to mention last time that I should have mentioned this to Kuro as well when covering Inexorable earlier in the Passioncraft Emerging Stars. There was no I don't think there was a big announcement, and we didn't announce it because of that. But shout out to Inexorable because he is on a new team. He is on a new team. He joined, I want to say like 2 weeks ago. Like we did notice that he was competing under the name of no longer Alien Esports, because we did announce that he left Alien Esports, but he was picked up by Little Fairy. He was picked up. Didn't compete in this week's Chinking Team League, but yes, he is now in Little Fairy. He has been under their banner for the past 2 weeks, I want to say. So shout out to Inexorable, finding a new team. Little Fairy, they have a pretty diverse roster, and I'm pretty sure a big reason for his pickup is to eventually compete in this team league. A lot of the Chinese teams, they do take it seriously. So shout out to Inexorable for joining Shameless, who's on Little Fairy, and Percival was another pickup as well. True, Percival, he's also another recent pickup. So Little Fairy take down Elpis 4-2. Psycho, Percival with their own wins. Oh, Oriana once again forfeit. A rough week here for Oriana. Oriana, he wasn't able to play this match. He wasn't able to play in the Sunrise Cup either. Hopefully everything's okay. We don't know if like he was just unavailable or if like maybe internet connectivity issues or electricity issues. Like we don't know exactly why these forfeits are occurring, but he's a good player, and I hope that everything clears up. So best of luck to Oriana. Hopefully able to fix any issues or be able to commit to StarCraft or be able to commit to some of these matches a little bit more. We'll see, but yeah, definitely something that has been plaguing him this week. That leads us to Hist versus Toho Project. As Hist, they take down Toho Project at 4-2. Kingslayer did lose his initial series against Daydreamer, but TATP and his other teammate did clean house. That leads us into Rookie Warpgate versus Starlight Twinkle. Starlight Twinkle, I would say, are one of the strongest, if not the strongest team in the league. Jolly Loves, Young Zest, Triple H, insane lineup here for SLT, and they do claim the win. Pioneer did take a map. Methuselah did take a map, but Drink could not take a map off of Young Zest. It was too zesty, too acidic, too sour. Couldn't drink it. GG well played. With that, Starlight Twinkle, they do claim the win. So far undefeated. So far they are undefeated. So definitely a team to look at, and definitely a team to expect to make it to the playoffs. But best of luck, because we still have plenty more rounds ahead of us. Plenty more to come. So Lemon is a good random player. If needed. True. Yes. Lemon doesn't compete as random, but he can play as random for sure. But that leads us into our next show match, the Inu Battles. It's been a while. I'll be honest, I wasn't sure if the Inu Battles would return. The last Inu Battles was last year, back in August. Almost a year ago was Inu Battles number 11, but Inu Battles number 12 has returned as a show match, a best of 9 show match here between Hero and Byun. Hero, of course, you can make an argument that Hero is the best player in all of South Korea at the moment. Hero, he is on fire, and he does claim the win, 5-2. Shout out to Byun. Byun did pose a threat, did take some maps, but again, Hero is very much so in form. And again, there's right now a lot of hype around Hero, a lot of anticipation around Hero, especially when it comes to GSL. So GG well played. Hero does claim it. Shout out to Byun for posing a threat. And again, best of luck to Byun and Hero moving into GSL. We'll be going over those matches momentarily. That leads us into the Super 7 number 42. Another show match. This time it's a best of 7. I should also emphasize shout out to Inu. Inu's a Korean caster. Every now and then does host show matches. As I mentioned, last time was back in August of last year. And we don't often get to see best of 9. So really cool to see Inu hosting a best of 9 of all things. So GG well played. Meanwhile, we have SOS versus DRG. Now, if you remember, DRG is a player that we did take note of last week, because DRG has been absent for a long time, for a good amount of months, but he did return last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago. He returned for the GSL qualifiers. He came back for the qualifiers. He didn't make it far. He did not qualify for GSL, but he did show up for the qualifiers. And I'm sure the people that work at Soup that host these that organize these show matches took notice of that. They're like, oh, DRG, he's playing again. let's drag him in. So DRG versus SOS. Of course, SOS is more in form. He's on a team. He's more, more in form. He's more practiced. DRG has been missing in action for months at this point. So DRG, he's not in form. He's not been practicing. He did play in GSL qualifiers, that is true. So he showed interest in StarCraft, but by no means is he actively competing at the moment. So this was a little bit more one-sided, but regardless, really cool to see DRG nonetheless. I appreciate that, at least, to see some DRG. I'll be honest, just because these are the only two things we've seen DRG in, this show match that he was invited to and the GSL qualifiers, I'll be honest, I don't expect to see DRG again until the next GSL qualifiers. I don't get the impression that he's dedicating too much time to StarCraft. I don't get the impression that he wants to dedicate too much. If you invite him for a show match, he'll be there, but I wouldn't take this as an indication of like the return of DRG and like the return of another Zerg player into StarCraft for like weekly KSLs and War TV Mondays. I don't expect that, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Hopefully I'm proven wrong, right? Like ideally does return and he does start playing in these open tournaments. But personally, I don't expect to see him until like either another show match like this where he gets invited or the next GSL qualifiers. We'll see. We'll see. Regardless, congratulations to SOS. Again, he's been a lot more in form. He has been, again, focusing a lot on improving, on playing, on practicing, especially during his qualification for GSL. That leads us into the May Mayhem. We covered this over the weekend. This is an invitational, a 6-player invitational, and this was an intense tournament, by the way. If you missed it, I highly recommend the VODs. There were some crazy matches taking place here. 6-player round-robin group stage. 3 Europeans, 3 Koreans. We had Clem, Showtime, and Max from Europe. We had Hero, Shin, and Cure from Korea. Oh boy. And again, we had some crazy results here. First things first, Cure had a really rough showing. He had a really rough showing here in this tournament. Cure, he went down 0-2 to Showtime, to Max to Hero, and he went down to Clem as well. I do rate Cure's TVP very highly. I rate it very highly. I often say that he's got like the second best TVP in the world, second best only to Clem. But here, on this day, in this tournament, Cure did struggle. He did struggle here. So my heart goes out to Cure. He definitely typically performs better than this, but specifically for this tournament, he did struggle quite a lot. Meanwhile, we also had Shin. He had a mixed showing here. If you can see, Shin, he took down Max and he took down Hero. Shin, he popped off. He took down the 2 best Protoss players in the world, straight up, Hero and Max. You can argue which one is better, but you cannot argue that they are top 2. And Shin took them both down, so really, really strong ZVP there out of Shin. But he did go down to Clem and Cure in the ZVTs. That is where he did struggle more. And likewise, I believe Shin, he also did struggle against, am I crazy, against Showtime? Yes, he also struggled against Showtime. Showtime was able to bring Shin down. If you remember, because we were covering this in English, if you remember, Showtime versus Shin was an interesting one. It was Showtime being hyper defensive and Shin going for all-ins and just ramming his face against Demao, against a brick wall. Like Showtime, he showcased some really nice defensive play. And Showtime, I would say, when it comes to his PvZ, at times he would even be overly defensive, inefficiently so, where there wouldn't even be an all-in coming, but he would like wall up with like stasis traps, cannons, and shield batteries, and it'd be a bit of a waste. But like, he'd just chill, get a 4th base, do the same there, just build up, max out, like a very, very slow, steady pace for Showtime. And Shin had a really hard time aggressing upon him. Shin, he wasn't really taking a more macro approach, despite Showtime at times again being inefficient when it comes to how safe he was playing. Shin eventually played into it and eventually tried to break him and paid the price for it. So Shin was punished for that aggression. He was shut down. In the end, Showtime had some good results as well. Showtime, he did out PvP Max. I was most impressed by the Phoenix game. Showtime, he had some killer Phoenix versus Phoenix. Like, we saw a lot of Phoenix wars in this tournament between Showtime, Max, and Hero. Well, a lot of Phoenixes made. But Showtime, he had some killer Phoenix wars against Max. He took him down 2-0. Showtime versus Hero was very close, a lot more intense, as Hero was going for some more aggressive builds. So was Showtime. And again, Max barely did defeat Hero as well in their PvP, also into the ace match. So we had some crazy PvPs amongst those 3 players. I do recommend it. Clem, looking dominant. Clem came out in 1st place. Barely anyone could threaten him. I mean, Cure took a map, true, and also Max as well. but Clem was looking very secure. And in the end, Clem, Showtime, Hero, and Max Max, they make it out of the group stage. They make it into the playoff bracket, and we are going to be casting this weekend. So this weekend, we're going to be covering it. It's going to be 3 Protoss and 1 Terran, Clem, Showtime, Hero, Max Max. We already had a lot of PvPs in the group stage. Expect more PvPs. There's going to be a lot more PvPs here, and best of luck to our players when it comes to that playoff bracket. You can see there the gold match, bronze match, and silver match as well. Oh, here we go. Was DRG a monster in Brood War? That I'm not so sure about. I know that he was DRG, like he hit his prime. I want to say like in Wings of Liberty. Wings of Liberty coming into Heart of the Swarm. A little bit less so in Legacy post military service, but I guess if you're asking, is DRG willing to switch to Brood War? Maybe. It's hard to say. I know that a decent amount of StarCraft 2 players have kind of made that switch to Brood War. Even some that you would not expect, like True, right? Like True, he's currently competing quite well in Brood War. I know MC is currently competing quite well in Brood War as well. So there's like a couple of old SC2 players that dabble in Brood War nowadays. DRG might be one of them. We'll see. I'm not too familiar with his history in Brood War. But that does wrap up our show matches, our invitationals, and that leads us into our open tournaments. So once again, if you want to tune into the rest of May Mayhem, that's going to be in 3 days' time here on the CranKy Ducklings. We'll be all over that over the weekend. First, when it comes to the Open Cups, we have the Sparkling Tuna Cup. Sparkling Tuna Cup number 91. That is a weekly open tournament that we host here on the CranKy Ducklings. Let's go. Again, we've been running it since 2022, many years of Sparkling Tuna Cup, and this week we had a banger of a finals. It was so good that I was late to Uthermal's 2-2 tournament. Uthermal's 2-2 circuit was actually running towards the tail end of this event, and I wasn't quite able to indulge into it until a little bit later. We were a little bit late to it because the finals went all the way to the ace match. We featured Björn. Once again, Björn has been a regular in our tournaments. So was Skillus. If you remember, though, last week, Skillus, there was a big upset. There was a big upset last week. And Skillus, he got knocked out early on. If you remember, it was Arrowfire. Last week, Skillus got knocked out in the quarterfinals, by the way. In the top 8. He didn't even get into the money with top 4. Skillus got knocked out early on by Arrowfire. Arrowfire took down Skillus, took down Creator. Arrowfire had some killer PvP, but this week there is no Arrowfire. You know that the fire has been put out, so there is no French Protoss here. So this time the Protoss players, they could breathe a little bit easier here. Skillus did go on a tear. He took down Nickrak 2-1, took down Percival 2-1, and took down Björn 3-2. All close matches. They all went to the ace match. I do recommend the VODs here because they were so close and so clutch. Very back and forth. When it comes to upsets here, I would say Percival had a crazy performance. He took down Christiana. I favored 100% against Percival. And Percival has been recently getting better results. Referring to Percival beating Christiana, Percival, he also had a really good result in the GSL qualifiers. I want to say he might be the reason why Shin failed to qualify. Like, I know that he's beaten Shin recently, and I think he's beaten Creator as well. Like, Creator, Shin, Christiana, these are players that I favor over Percival. Percival, he's been like a Code A player in Korea for a long time. Always just under Code S, not quite able to get there regularly. I think he's been in 1 Code S in his history or in his career. But yeah, he's been looking really good recently. He's been grinding a lot, streaming a lot, and performing very well. So, really strong result there by Percival. Takes down Christiana, takes the map off of Skillus, and again, that he could have taken the series as well. Meanwhile, Björn versus Geralt. If you know anything about Geralt, you know that he has some of the best late game PvT out there. We have casted Geralt beat Cure. We've seen him beat Björn. We've seen him bring these players down before, and he almost did it here again as well. It was very close between Björn and Geralt. Again, Geralt, he thrives in the late game. If he can get up to a 4-base economy, he can beat almost anyone out there when it comes to Terran in PvT. And Björn was struggling. Where Björn excelled, though, was the early game. Early to mid-game aggression, multi-prong aggression, drops all over the place. If Björn can break you early on, then he can end you early on, and he can avoid that kind of late game scenario. That's where Björn excelled, and Björn in the end did take it. And again, just a really back and forth series between Björn and Skillus. It was very close, very clutch, could have gone either way. I'll say that Björn and Skillus are very close in skill at the moment, and in the end, Skillus barely takes the win. GG, well played, Skillus. Not his first win in Sparkling Tuna Cup, but well won. tournaments nonetheless. Really strong performance, really well done. GG. Also, I mentioned his name earlier. There's Minizerg again. Again, he's been more active. Doesn't take down Geralt. Not expected to, but again, just keeping my eye out for Minizerg to see how far he goes and to see if he gets better results over time. Again, just keep my eye out on him. Shout out to Dave Latos. Dave Latos does claim the $5 random raffle in this tournament as well. As that leads us into the next Open Cup. It goes from Tuna Cup into the Wardy TV Monday number 35. Welcome to the PvP edition of Wardy TV Monday. So, typically, we have a bit of diversity. We have Clem, we have Cure, we have Björn. We usually have a TVP finals. Sometimes PvP, but if we don't get a TVP finals, we at least get TVP semifinals. Not this time. I think this is the first time in... Actually, you know what? I'm going to check. Wardy TV Mondays, have we ever had pure Protoss in the top 4? Let's see. Not last year. Yep, for the first time. There we go. For the first time in the history of Wardy TV Monday, usually there's another player. Usually there's a Clem, there's a Björn, there's a Dark, there's a Cure, there's just another player, another Terran or Zerg to mix up the semis. For the first time, pure Protoss. And a big reason for this, old mate Mana. Mana, he's out here stopping Clem from getting his paycheck. What's going on? He's the Team Liquid manager. He takes down the ace Team Liquid player. Ay, Mana, give him a pay raise. Get him in there, papi. Get him in. Oh my god. But Mana takes down Clem 2-1 in a crazy upset. Again, Mana, I feel like, especially when Yaku was here, we keep talking about how every month, it's like once a month. It's not too regularly, but like once a month, maybe once every couple of weeks, Mana pops off and he gets like a big win. I want to confirm this, and I want to point out I know that Mana, he recently beat Max Pax, for example. Here he just beat of course he just beat Clem. I want to say he beat Skillus relatively recently as well. Like Mana, he just shows up every now and then. He just takes out a big name. It's crazy. In this tournament, he beat Clem, he beat Spirits, as well. Spirits also informed. Yeah, it was last week he beat Max Pax, he beat Hearthstone. The week before that, in Pixie Festival, that's the tournament, he beat Björn, and he beat Classic. Like, Mana, these are some of the best players in the world. Clem, Max Pax, Classic, Björn. He beat Classic again? He beat Spirit again, he beat Lambo again. Like, these are impressive results, these are big names. Yeah, Mana, he's like an enigma to me. Like, it's like every now and then, like when he gets a good night's rest, when he gets some nice breakfast in the morning, he goes for a bit of a jog. When he's at peak condition, Mana's like one of the best Protoss players in the world. It's crazy. It's crazy. But again, it's like very sporadic when it comes to Mana and how he pops off. It's very sporadic. It's not very consistent. But every now and then, he looks like the best player in the world. It's crazy. So. Shout out to Mana, by the way, for doing it again and for taking down a Clem 2-1. And I look forward to seeing, in maybe 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time, I'm sure that Mana's going to be like a hero or be like Max Pax again. Like every couple of weeks. What did we say last time? He has to charge up his Mana. It takes a couple of weeks, but he charges up his Mana, then bam, he takes someone out. Then he depletes the Mana. He has to charge back up again. So, shout out to Mana. He's crazy. Big shout out to Mana. One of the older players out there and still able to take it to the best of them. Does go down to Classic in the end because he did spend his Mana on Clem. So, it happens. It happens. But Classic does take down Mana, does take down Shin, does take down Scarlet. Oh, right. I also forgot to mention, this was Scarlet's return to open tournaments. If you remember, we did cast Scarlet not too long ago in Little League Cup 38. Scarlet, she did make her return in Little League Cup. I believe she also played in Kung Fu Cup recently as well. And we were curious, is she back? Scarlet, she has not competed regularly in StarCraft since last year, August. Like, she has been gone for almost an entire year. I know she spent a lot of time in China studying. She spent some time in China studying. She was, of course, spending time on Zero Space as well, focusing on things outside of StarCraft. I think like a lot of players, like Estrella specifically, I think Scarlet was not really interested in competing or not really willing to invest too much time in StarCraft until we had confirmation about Esports World Cup. And over the past 2 weeks, she's been more active. And again, this was her first time playing in Awardee TV Monday. It was her first time playing. Really cool to see. She does go down to Classic. Again, Classic is in form. Scarlet is just more recently coming back. But it's really cool to see the return of Scarlet. And I believe, from my understanding, Scarlet is back from China and Scarlet is in Canada. And there's a high chance she's going to DreamHack. There's a high chance she's going to DreamHack Dallas. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing some Scarlet action at that NA tournament. It'll be exciting for sure. And really cool to see that Scarlet is once again devoting more time to StarCraft 2. So big hype, big hype. Meanwhile, we do have MaxPax. MaxPax takes down Beyond 2-0, takes down Creator 2-0. Creator, speaking of upsets, Creator had a really good performance here as well. I know that Creator can get really hard on himself. I know he can get really down on himself, but I hope he walked away from this tournament with his head held high, because Creator, even though he goes down to MaxPax in the semifinals, and even though it's the semis, look at who he beat to get there. Creator, he 2-0'd Solar and he 2-0'd Hero. I was just hyping up Hero as being the best player, like the best Protoss player in Korea, or best player in Korea even, like straight up. Like Hero, he's very in form right now. He's looking like a beast. So for Creator to defeat Solar and to defeat Hero, these are really strong results. And I say this, and I want to bring this up just because Creator, if you remember, he failed to qualify for GSL. He's one of the many players, like Shin as well. Shin, Creator, Bunny, they didn't qualify for Season 1 of GSL. So it's because of that, like, whenever something like that happens, I get really concerned, because it's like, ooh, like, how does that impact their mental state? How does that impact their drive to compete and their drive to improve? But hey, 2 weeks later, bam, takes down Hero 2-0, takes down Solo 2-0. Like, these are really good performances, really good results. It shows that Creator is a GSL caliber player. He's a GSL Code S level player. It just comes down to how you feel on the day, right, of the qualifiers, right? Qualifiers, they can go awry real fast and real quick. Creator, he is definitely a strong and worthwhile player, and I hope to see more of Creator in the future. And again, he did really well here. And I bring this up as well because Creator, he is one of those players that is still waiting for a team to take notice of him. So I'm hoping that he's able to commit to this path and to continue to excel. And I look forward to seeing Creator coming into GSL Season 2. Look forward to it. Regardless, in the end, Classic does take the win. Classic takes down Mana, takes down MaxPax in the end. Classic popping off, and GG, well played. Classic, he does become this week's Awardee TV Monday champion, as that leads us into the next tournament. That leads us into the Pegasaur Cup. Now, rebranded Pegasaur Cup. It used to be the Pegasaur Monday, but now it's on Tuesdays, or on Wednesdays here in Australia. It is now a day later. The reason for this is because the Pegasaur Cup, they did want to give players some time to sleep and rest. If you know anything about these Open Cups, we cover them on a regular basis. But very often, it's become more and more frequent where more players are going full degen. I'm referring to Hero, Clem, MaxPax, Beyond, Shin, Solar, Classic, Cure, Bunny. More players are joining this group where they stay up and they play in everything. They play in Awardee TV Monday, into Monday Night Weekly, into Pegasaur Monday. And it's really cool. It's really exciting. It shows how dedicated they are. At the same time, looking on it, it's like, guys, get some sleep, get some rest, look after yourselves, in an effort to do so, in an effort to, try to give the players some time to rest and recover, recuperate, and disincentivize players from just pulling all-nighters and just committing and maybe not the most healthy thing to do to play in all three tournaments at once. They have moved their event 24 hours. So it is a day later, so people can now sleep. Players can now sleep, players that can now rest up instead, and hopefully that'll benefit the scene overall, but we'll see. I know that right now they're still uncertain if they want to commit to keeping this on Tuesdays instead of Wednesdays. I know right now they're asking the players for their opinion, they're asking the casters for their opinion. Personally, I do like the idea of this switching to Tuesdays. I think it's a good thing, but we'll see what they land on. It's still yet to be decided, yet to be fully cemented. But now though, MaxPax, he does pop off. He takes down the Brazilian boys, Yan and Master. Takes down Skillus in the semifinals. Was a close back and forth, best of 3. Went to the ace match, and then MaxPax did take the finals over Solar. Big win there for MaxPax. In the end, he does redeem himself for falling to Classic in the previous Awardee TV Monday. But there was a big upset in this tournament. This was the week of upsets. Some crazy results. I don't know if you noticed something. Estrella, he came back a month ago. He came back, and Estrella has been looking good. He's been looking in form. His PVT is looking terrifying, is what I will say. It wasn't too long ago where Estrella, he beat Cure, he beat Beyond, he beat Shin as well. But Estrella, he lost to Mute. Mute is the Peruvian Protoss player. He is a relatively newer player in the scene. He debuted like maybe a year and a half ago, like beginning of last year-ish. And Mute, he was like low GM, he's been slowly improving, and Mute, he has gotten some really good results recently. I think it was like maybe a month ago in KSL, he beat Classic. I want to say he took a map off of Cure. Like every now and then, like Mute, he's been getting he's been spiking up and getting like a good result every now and then. This is another big one, another big spike for Mute. Does go down to Solar in the semis, but he 2-0'd Estrella. Estrella was favored against Mute, and Estrella, I would have said, would have been favored against Solar as well to make it to the finals. Estrella, he's been looking really strong right now, but Mute at left field, he doesn't just take down Estrella, he takes down Percival as well. Remember, we were just praising Percival earlier for taking down Creator, for going toe-to-toe with Skillus, for taking down Christiana. I would rate Skillus and Christiana above Mute. So for Mute to defeat Percival here, impressive stuff already, and then that streak continues into Estrella. There was so much hype. I remember that I wasn't able to cast it, but we were casting Skills versus Wayne at the time, and we wrapped up Skills versus Wayne. I looked over, Enki was casting. Of course he was. Enki, he was covering Mute versus Estrella, and yo, the Latin American chat was popping off for Mute. They were going crazy. They were so hyped for Mute. It was beautiful. The chat was going wild. Enki was going wild, and Mute, he had a really strong performance there. Really good result. Takes down Estrella. Crazy upset. In the end, he forces Solar. You know, that's kind of like a splash of reality there. Like Solar, he is a level above, but again, I know that Mute was really happy. I messaged him after, I congratulated him, and he said, like, I don't know how I did it, but I'm so happy right now. And yeah, like he did well for himself. And again, you may look at this and be like, oh, but he got knocked down the semis. But like, to get there, like, you don't expect Mute to make it that far to begin with, right? Like Mute, he's usually like a round of 16 or a quarterfinals player. So to make it that far, big win. Also, I don't want to gloss over it, Shino. I don't know what happened there, but Shino, he also took a map off of Solar. Very crazy in the ZVZ. Very impressive stuff there. Again, we weren't able to cover that. We weren't able to see that, but a big win there for Shino as well. Week of upsets. Crazy. GG. Speaking of upsets, I don't want to gloss over it. PvP, Cannon Rush, Bonan. Bonan, he almost knocked out Skillus, to be honest. We casted that series. It was obviously with Bonan, non-stop Cannon Rushes, and it was very stressful. It was a very stressful series for Skillus. In the end, Bonan did go down, but like he can take anyone down. Like he's an animal. Bonan is crazy. Bonan is crazy. So GG, well played. In the end, Max Rexels claimed the win, Solar in second place, and that leads us into the Wardy TV May tournament. Of course, this is a monthly event. Wardy, if you remember, I think last time, I don't even think Group D was seeded at the time. I don't think it was even confirmed, but we have wrapped up this tournament. I believe last time we were going through some of these groups, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, we have Group A, B, C, and D concluded. And from the top, Björn, Trigger, Zan, and Bunny. They make it through the initial... Oh, right, I remember. We went over... We did predictions, I think, for the group last time. I think we did predictions for Group A. I think the other groups had yet to be, like, fully confirmed. But Björn and Trigger, they make it out of Group A. Impressive performances. I mean, Group A was stacked. Jesus, Group A is insanely stacked. Björn, Trigger, Zan, and Bunny. That's crazy. What the hell happened here? Wardy, what's going on with the seeding? In Group B, I would say upsets did occur here. Percival, I mean, we were praising Percival, which is why it was more impressive that Mute did beat him. Percival, he took down Spirit, took down Young Yakov, took down Goblin. Percival in first place. Again, Percival, I don't know what it is, but over the past couple of weeks, like, he's been taking down some big names. Like, this is a crazy result for Percival. Like, you don't expect this out of him. I favor Goblin, Young Yakov, and Spirit over him here. So really, really impressive performances recently by Percival. Again, we know that he has been grinding. Spirit in second place. Goblin and Young Yakov, they do fail to make it out of the group stage. Again, Zhao Bunny also knocked out of the tournament. Heading on over Group C, we had Clem, Jumi, Classic, and Scarlet. Once again, the return of Scarlet. We spoke about how she returned to the Water TV Open Cups, and now she's here being invited to this event as well. Scarlet is still finding her footing, is still improving, is still on the road to progression, getting ready for DreamHack Dallas. So does fall in last place. Classic goes down as well, though. Jumi took down Classic 2-0, and Jumi did fall to Clem. Clem made it out in first place, but Jumi to defeat Classic is a big win. Jumi is another one of those players. We didn't get to talk about him because Jumi has been inactive. Jumi, this week specifically, I should say, he didn't really play in many tournaments, if at all. But Jumi, he is also a player that has been rising through the ranks and been improving a lot in the European region. I think I might even place Jumi above Geralt and Christiana at the moment. I've got a soft place in my heart for Geralt and Christiana because they are both grinders. They play in so many tournaments, but Jumi has been getting better results, to be honest. Like, he's been getting better results. Has been popping off. I know that Jumi is going to DreamHack Dallas, so exciting stuff there. Jumi's going to be traveling abroad for that tournament. And yeah, Jumi, he's been looking like a beast this year. It's not even like a recent thing, but if you've been watching Jumi for the past 5 months, you'd know that Jumi, he's been popping off. Like, he's crazy good right now. It's crazy good coming into the season of EWC, so best of luck to Jumi as he does head into the playoffs. Up next, we have Group D. Group D, we have Max Pack, Solar, Shin, and Shota. Once again, a really stacked group. Group A and Group D seem like overly stacked. It's crazy. But Max Pack, Solar, Shin, and Showtime. Ooh, Max Pax does get his revenge. If you remember, I did mention how Showtime did defeat Max Pax during the May Mayhem. Here, went to the Ace match. Max Pax does barely defeat Showtime here, so an impressive performance there by Max Pax. Does redeem himself, does come out in first place. Again, Max Pax still the best Protoss in Europe, of course. Meanwhile, we do have Solar. Solar likewise takes down Shin, takes down Showtime, takes a map off of Max Pax. Solar comes out in second place. I would have said that this group would have been really close. I'm a big fan of Showtime, big fan of Shin. Shame they didn't make it through, but this was borderline group of death. Like, again, Group A as well. Like, some of these groups are crazy. In the end, we have our playoffs. Ooh, that's a lot of mirror matchups. So we have a TVT, which that's not true. We have Clem versus Spirit. We all know that's not a TVT, that's a PVT, so hopefully Wardy does fix that. But that's going to be Protoss versus Terra between Clem and Spirit. Meanwhile, Beyond versus Solar in a TVZ, that's a more classic matchup. They face off very often in online Open Cups. We have Percival versus Trigger. That's going to be an interesting one. Percival has been on fire, so is Trigger. I know that Trigger will be getting to those GSL performances soon, but I know that Trigger, he has been focusing on GSL, but I know that he's also been devoting a lot of time to StarCraft. I do want to favor Trigger there, but I also favored a bunch of players against Percival, and he just keeps causing these upsets, right? He just keeps going far, so it's hard to bet against Percival right now. It's hard to bet against him. He's been looking very strong. And we have Max Pax versus Jumi. Now, if Jumi can take down... Now, couple of things. I was about to say, if Jumi can take down Classic, he can defeat Max Pax. Something better than that. If Jumi can beat Max Pax, he can beat Max Pax. We have seen Jumi defeat Max Pax before. It's happened in the Wardy TV, in the Monday Night Weeklies. Jumi, he's already beaten him before. If he's done it before, he can do it again. So best of luck. Max Pax is still favored, but again, Jumi has been crazy recently, and best of luck. Best of luck. This tournament is going to be in 3 days' time, so we'll be keeping you guys updated in the next podcast. See you then. See them for the next PondCast. Meanwhile, that leads us into the next event. That leads us into the GSL. Throughout all of it, we were alluding to it, but GSL, the group stage did take place last week. I know that currently we have the group stage 2 currently underway. We'll be going over group stage 2 next week. For now, our attention is on group stage 1, the round of 12. Now, last time we did go over the qualifiers. There were some key players that failed to qualify. I did mention them earlier, mention them again. Who didn't qualify? DRG, Ryung, Shin, Creator, Bunny. There were some brutal names, some players that just barely didn't make the cut. Players that are deserving to be in GSL, but specifically this season, GSL is smaller. Only 12 players. Only 12. It's brutal just how few players actually are able to take part in this. We had some crazy upsets as well that led us here into Group Stage 1. Speaking of Group Stage 1, we had Group A, we had Cure, Raynor, Solar, and SOS. A lot of eyes were on SOS based on SOS's performances during the qualifiers and during the open tournaments, SOS was coming in as the weakest player. Like we saw him struggle a little bit in the open cups and struggle a little bit in the qualifiers. It was really cool to see SOS here, and he's still of course competing, still practicing, and we expect to see SOS in GSL Season 2, but SOS, he is out of the tournament. The next big one was going to be who makes it out and who doesn't. And it was going to be a toss-up in my mind between Reynor and Solar. That's what it came down to. Kira comes out in first place, takes down SOS, takes down Solar. Solar did defeat Reynor in their first series, but in the rematch, Reynor brought it back, and it was very close, very intense. We did cast these matches on the channel. I recommend watching the VODs on YouTube. But in those ZVZs, a lot of mind games, never a single moment did we ever have a standard ZVZ. It was always cutting workers, faking drones, faking out all-ins or committing to all-ins and catching players off guard. It was non-stop aggression between Solar and Reynor both times. In the end, Reynor barely came out on top. Solar won the first series, but when it mattered most, Reynor did take it in the end. GG. GG, well played. Solar was caught with his pants down, was caught with an all-in. Solar caught droning, did in the series. Reynor makes it through. And my condolences to Solar as his run in GSL ends early here, as he is out of the GSL. Heading on over to Group B, we had Maru, Rogue, Trigger, and Nightmare. Now, if you've been watching Maru as of late, you would know that Maru, there's been a lot of ambiguity around him because Maru has been struggling. Maru, he got knocked out early on in the year by Lancer. I think that was in either a Masters Coliseum or a Little League Cup. But Maru, he lost to Lancer, Maru, he lost to Dark, and he got knocked out of Pigsty Festival number 5 in the group stage as well. Maru has been having some very lackluster results this year. But if you remember, we speculated that a big reason for that, we spoke about this like a month ago, was that Maru, he was enlisted to go to the military, and it did seem like he was uncertain whether or not he would go, so he took a lot of time off. These poor results that Maru had for most of this year is because he was taking time off, he was on a break, he was not practicing anywhere near as much. I think Björn confirmed that as well. I remember asking Björn, like, yo, like, are you gonna get Maru to play some of these more like open cups? He's like, oh, Maru, he likes the rest. Like, he likes the rest. He likes to take a break during the off season. So Maru, he just wasn't really active at the start of the year. He wasn't playing much. And then it was announced that Maru, he finished his military service. It was announced that Maru, he technically, because he had signed up and registered and he was ready to go to the military 3 years in a row, in the end, he was never called upon. And because 3 years this had happened, this had occurred, by law, Maru now counts as having finished his military service because he had been there year after year after year, ready to be called upon. The administration never called upon him. And because of that, you know, he never actually, he never got called upon, never went. Because it's been 3 years, he counts as having concluded. And now he can focus on StarCraft. Now that's not looming over his head. And we spoke about how, like, most likely because of that, there was, you know, that ambiguity. Was he going to the military? Was he not? Now he knows that he isn't. Now he most likely, you know, that military, that he is StarCraft, and now he's back. Now, when it comes to his matches here, we did cover him during the qualifiers. If you remember, Maru, he lost to Gumiho, but he did defeat Classic, and he qualified over Classic for GSL. And if you remember, something that we spoke about when it comes to Group B, is that Maru, when it comes to the qualifiers, if you remember, because we covered it, he all-in every game. Every single game, 2-base all-in. 2-base all-in, 2-base all-in, 2-base all-in. So coming into the group stage when we were casting, we were like, okay, so Maru, he did nothing but 2-base all-in during the qualifiers. Is that going to continue? I mean, there's a high chance. And that's exactly what happened. If you watch the series versus Trigger, Maru, he 2-base all-in both games. And it was brutal in game 1 because if you remember, Trigger, he went 2-gate blink into a 3rd base before the Robo. Trigger, he went for the greediest build you can go for, and he got 2-base, like game 1 was brutal, and it did seem like maybe Trigger didn't watch the qualifier games just because Maru's been doing nothing but all-ins, and then game 2 had happened again. Trigger had a better standing, he had a better defense in game 2, but was still overwhelmed, was still broken. Again, this is kind of a trend that we've been seeing from Maru, and if you watched Maru's TVZs, he also went for all-ins there as well. It was 3-base all-ins, so it was 3-base all-ins, 8 Raxes from Maru in his series against Rogue. If you remember, they had a very close game 1 on ley lines. It was very intense, very close between Maru and Rogue. If you remember, Rogue, he went for a Roach all-in himself, and Maru didn't scout at all. Like, these games are still fresh in my mind. Maru, he did not scout at all, by the way. He had no idea what was going on. He got caught with his pants down. Rogue broke him. But Rogue's transition out of Roach Ravager into Lingbane was very late. It was a very late transition, so Rogue, he tunnel visioned too much there, and Maru was able to recover. And Maru, he was already going for a 3-base all-in. He was already 8-raxing in that game anyway to begin with, so he just was able to commit to it, got into 3-3, and did break him on ley lines, and then on Tokamak, 3-base all-in again from Maru. So just non-stop all-ins out of Maru. I was left wanting after Group B. I was like, I wanted to see some macro, I wanted to see some back and forth. We'll see if we get there in the next round. I'm sure we will. So hopefully we're able to indulge in some more mid-game from Maru coming into the second round of group stage. Meanwhile, Rogue, he came out in second place. Rogue did actually have an interview afterwards where he did discuss his matches, and he did explain that he felt like Trigger was nervous. Trigger, he is lacking experience when it comes to competing in GSL. It was really, really cool of him to have made it to GSL and make it this far, but I think I would agree. It did seem like Trigger, especially in his matches against Rogue, he did seem nervous. He didn't seem quite like himself, or I should say that he was, he was definitely a little bit flustered. Rogue was hyper aggressive though. Like, Rogue didn't help. Rogue, he was going for a non-stop Ling aggression against Trigger, and he was able to, eventually was able to break him, able to pull apart his attention, and in the end, Rogue and Maru did make it through. And again, Trigger, he played well for himself, but again, it did seem like I would probably agree with Rogue in saying that Trigger, he felt a little bit out of his element, but at the same time, that's something that you gain with time, right? Like, you gain with experience. The more that we see Trigger in GSL, the better he's going to perform. I look forward to seeing Trigger potentially in GSL Season 2. Look forward to it. From the side of Nightmare, I should also mention that Nightmare, he was also inactive for most of this year. Nightmare, he's barely competed and barely played in anything in StarCraft 2. We announced last week that he was playing in Deadlock. He was competing in Deadlock. So I was surprised to see Nightmare in the qualifiers. I was very surprised to see him in the qualifiers, and he did qualify. He did make it through. He made it through over Bunny in the qualifiers, which was very surprising, by the way. I definitely felt for Bunny, as Bunny did get knocked out by Nightmare. Here, coming into these matches, Nightmare did feel a little bit out of practice against Rogue. I think Nightmare versus Rogue, that felt very apparent. Nightmare, he had some interesting builds, if you remember. In my mind, I'm still thinking of the game on Maganatha, where Nightmare was playing overly safe. He was playing overly safe on Maganatha. He was staying on 3 bases. He teched up really quickly into Storm. He delayed his Forge, delayed his upgrades. He delayed his 4th base. He got early gases. Like, it was just really safe play. Nightmare, who was playing like he was expecting an all-in. And you know what Rogue did? He turned up to 87. like Nightmare was being like just hyper safe and hyper defensive, and Rogue, he just droned up to 87, droned up to 4 base saturation, maxed out, and just won the game. It was crazy. So it did feel like Nightmare, he was a little bit out of it as well, a little bit out of his elements, or again, maybe not as practiced coming into this. So yeah, it was definitely a bit of a rougher showing there. I will say that Trigger versus Nightmare was a lot more comfortable. I think because the meta of PvP has changed less over time, maybe Nightmare was a little bit more comfortable. But Trigger versus Nightmare, even though it was a 2-0, was a bit of a closer 2-0, and there was more of a back and forth there. With that, Maru and Rogue, they do advance on out of Group B, and Trigger and Nightmare, they are knocked out of the tournament. That leads into Group Stage 2. We'll be catching up on that next week, as Group Stage 2 is currently underway. And of course, we're going to be covering and casting those matches next week. So we're going to be casting those next week. I haven't seen the matches or seen the results myself. We'll be catching up on that after we cover the events on the channel. But with that, and again, it's going to be a very compressed GSL. Bear that in mind. Only 3 rounds. There's Group Stage 1, Group Stage 2, and then the playoffs. GSL is marked to finish tomorrow, by the way. Like a really condensed season of GSL. Really condensed. Tomorrow is going to be the finals and the playoffs, and it's going to wrap up. And then there's going to be like a week break, and then bam, Season 2 qualifiers. I'm very torn when it comes to the format. We really didn't get to spend much time talking about it, but the format And the format of it is it's very condensed. It's very very rushed. It feels as well. 3 weeks of GSL is crazy. Group stage 1, group stage 2, bam, finals. It's over. A big reason for that, of course, is EWC. It's all condensed because Esports World Cup is right around the corner. But so I understand the reasoning for it, but it is a shame. It is a shame that it's so short and so condensed. And I want to sink my teeth into more GSL and more of these players, but I guess I have to settle for season 2. I guess so. Season 1 ends tomorrow. GG. GG all played. With that, we're going to be wrapping up, I suppose. With that, that is going to be the end of our coverage here. I guess some nice fun facts surrounding the event. Trigger did share on social media that apparently he's a part of a badminton club. I didn't even know, but apparently so. And apparently they made some promotional posters and promotional graphics for him, which is really cute. Really cool to see. Really cute to see. His team or his friends outside of StarCraft like support him and make or make content like this. So it's really cool to see, really cute. Likewise, shout out to Star Shimada and Periodista, that's it, Periodista, and Star Shimada for also being a part of GSL. Like, they're old school fans of StarCraft, and to see some, in a way, like fan art and content made to support SOS and Nightmare was really cool. Unfortunately, they didn't make it through the event itself, but yeah, some nice like badges and stickers, and this is something that used to be a lot more common back in the day, but especially during like the Pro League era, back when fan clubs were bigger and more organized and there were more people supporting players. This is a rare sight to see, and like this is dedicated. Like how many of these were like printed out and gotten ready ahead of time? Yeah, it's really cool. Much love here to Sashim. But yeah, it looks like a lot of effort was put into just making this fan content for SOS and Nightmare. Ex-NV boys, of course. And also, again, I referenced it earlier, but Meisenhower did actually hold an interview. Apparently, Meisenhower was in Korea and was able to interview Maru and Rogue for their performances in Group B. I don't know if Meisenhower is going to interview for Group Stage 2. I don't know if he's still in Korea. If so, would be really cool to see more interviews. Otherwise, did briefly interview Maru and Rogue. And they were very brief, is what I will say. Very brief interviews. They were very general as well, like asking, like, oh, what does it feel like coming back to StarCraft, coming back to the studio? Like, how was your practice? How you're feeling? Like, do you have any words for the fans? Like, how are your games? Some very brief questions and brief answers. Nothing too in-depth, but regardless, I appreciate that Meisenhower did, conduct the interview and was a part of the event and was there at the venue. And was able to get some words with the players. So really cool to see. And this is where Rogue did mention that he felt like Trigger was a little bit out of his element, and how Trigger is usually terrifying when you play against him online, but at GSL he was a little bit out of it. So did mention that, and I believe Rogue did also mention that he was looking forward to playing against Terran players in the next round, and hopefully avoiding Kiro. So, with that, GG. With that is going to be wrapping up our PondCast for the week. A bit of a shorter episode. There was not as much to get into. Again, a big reason for this is a lot of players are just focusing on these big events that are happening, that are around the corner, like Dallas, like Star Zagora, like GSL Season 2. So there's a little bit less news here and a big fixation on what's to come. Big fixation. Otherwise, if you want to take part in some of these tournaments that are hosted on a regular basis, then signups in the chat so you can gain access to our sign-up list, as there are signups to all the open tournaments that are available here, including some of the offline events and including some of the region locked or even restricted events. It is all listed. The criteria, the restrictions are listed on the signups list as well for these tournaments. Again, RSL qualifiers are tomorrow. We're going to be covering that. We're going to be casting that, but RSL qualifiers, Revival StarCraft League, that's going to be tomorrow. Over the weekend as well, we have Sparkling Tunica, we have KSL, we have What TV Monday, we have Monday Night Weeklies. Oh, I forgot to mention, if you noticed, we didn't cover a Monday Night Weekly this week because there wasn't a Monday Night Weekly. From my understanding, they do have, not a Patreon, I think it's a Ko-Fi, but they have a way to support the tournament and to help fund the tournament. but they actually are under the limits. They're under the limits, so because of that, this week there was no Monday Night Weekly. There was no tournament. Instead, it got pushed back to next week. So if you...
So to chime in, I believe they have coffee for the Monday Night Weeklies, and the way coffee works, you can have a goal for specific things. So basically, they organize a tournament whenever they reach the goal for the next tournament.
Yes. So as we were saying, there is a way to support the event via Ko-Fi, and currently they are under the goal for a weekly tournament, which is why they are not which is why we missed out this week. And it gets pushed next week because, again, the support is able to build up over time until they're able to get enough for the event itself. It is a shame just because, even though this is an event supported by the community, we've been hosting this event every week for quite some time now. So I'm hoping that they can reach that goal once again. If you want to help support the European region, the European scene, and the European Weekly, then the link is in the chat. Link is in the chat. You can see here that we do have the Ko-Fi link, so do support the European region if you wish. You don't have to, but again, if you have some spare resources, some spare money, if you want to donate monetarily, you can do so via Ko-Fi for the Monday Night Weeklies. Otherwise, it's still going to be next week, but it's going to be on a more irregular basis depending on the support on Ko-Fi. Depending on that support. But yes, it is important to bring attention to that. Likewise, again, DreamHack Dallas is going to be next week as well. And with that, we are going to be wrapping up here. Speaking of supporting other scenes or supporting other communities, you can also support us here on the CranKy Ducklings. Exclamation mark Patreon in the chat. We also have a Patreon page for our tournaments. We do host our events on a regular basis. Unlike the Monday Night Weeklies, if we don't reach our goals, we still host our events anyway. We just pay out the money ourselves. That's how we've been doing things for years at this point. But this year we have been getting a lot more support, so thank you so much. Thank you so much to all of our patrons, to all of our supporters for allowing us for growing our events, I should say, for growing our tournaments, growing Sea Duckling Open, Master Swan Open, and Sparkling Tuna Cup as well. Thank you so much. Our next goal is right around the corner at 500 USD a month to boost the prize pool even further for Sparkling Tuna Cup. So if you want to help support our tournaments, if you want to help support StarCraft, if you want to help support the region and the scene, you can do so via our Patreon as well to help boost the Sparkling Tuna Cup. So thank you. Thank you to all of our current patrons, and thank you to all those that do tune in, do watch us, even if you don't support us on Patreon. Thank you so much for watching us on Twitch, watching us on YouTube, watching us on TikTok, on Kick, on Facebook as well. We are live on all the platforms out there. We have plenty of content out there as well. If you want to support us in other ways, follow us on YouTube. YouTube is the place to be for VOD content. We do upload VODs on a daily basis. There's plenty of VODs, plenty of content, plenty of StarCraft. We are live every single day, and typically multiple times a day as well. We were live earlier this morning with StarCraft Evolution League, now here with the PondCast, and tomorrow we are live with RSL. So there's plenty of content out there to tune into. This weekend is going to be a busy one. This weekend we have OSC Midseason Playoffs, we have RSL Qualifiers, we have the May Mayhem, we have Anonymous Cup, we have Sparkling Tuna Cup, and more RSL, and more Mayhem, and more another. There's a lot of content throughout the weekend. It's very intense, very busy, and once again, we will do our best to not sleep and to bring you as much content as possible, as much StarCraft as possible. We'll do our best. I do also want to say that I do apologize for falling behind when it comes to certain tournaments. For example, we do have a backlog of Kung Fu Cup casts to do. It's just we haven't had any time to really indulge and to bring them to the forefront. But I want to say that we should be able to squeeze in at least some Kung Fu Cup casts post GSL. Basically, because we now have a new tournament to prioritize. GSL. We've been casting GSL here, the qualifiers and the Group Stage 1 and Group Stage 2. Because we're casting GSL, those GSL slots would have typically been filled by Kung Fu Cup, by some of these other tournaments. So GSL we are prioritizing, we are fixating on. So our attention has been on GSL to prioritize that over other tournaments. But once the GSL season wraps up, then we'll be able to go back in and go into our backlog and catch up on all these other tournaments. We'll get around to it. Don't you worry. Plenty of content, plenty of StarCraft. Otherwise, thank you for all for watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you all for tuning in. If you want to support us, you can follow us on the CranKy Ducklings, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Discord. You can follow myself at light_VIP. I haven't been able to stream in a week. I just haven't had the time to. I've been very busy with working on the CranKy Ducklings, or with casting, or with resting. I'll be honest, last weekend was very intense. I barely got any sleep. Like I think we casted like 6 tournaments in 2 days, maybe it's like 7 tournaments in 2 days. We did a lot of casting last weekend, and we're gonna do something similar this weekend as well. Even more casting. So I have been a little bit fatigued, a little bit out of it, and I haven't been able to stream on my personal channel. But I plan to do so tomorrow, so I'll do my best. Do my best to stream a little bit of StarCraft. Just been a little bit drained, a little bit out of it. Haven't had the energy to fully commit like I usually do. But we'll get there. We'll do our best. We'll do our best. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Your stream yesterday. Yeah, Final Fantasy stream is different. It's less intense, is what I will say. Less intense. Referring to the StarCraft ladder session specifically. But I hopefully I could. I won't promise anything, but maybe tomorrow I'll be able to ladder a little bit of StarCraft. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Thank you for watching. A shout out to Kuro as well, handling the production behind the scenes as well. Shout out to Yaku. I see Yaku in the chat. Good to see Yaku as always. Otherwise, we're wrapping up, and we'll see you guys next week for some more podcasts, or tomorrow with the Revival StarCraft America's Qualifier. See you next time. Ciao.